Hello, everyone. Today on 7 Studio Ave, we're going higher, further, faster as we talk about Captain Marvel. I'm joined today by Brian
Hi guys, it's me, Brian.
and Jalen.
Hey guys, happy to be back.
All right, so we just saw Captain Marvel last night, opening day, so it's still pretty fresh in our minds. We're gonna do brief non-spoiler and then full-on spoilers, but we'll tell you when we get into spoilers. So, what did you guys think?
I thought it was pretty good. The main thing I would say is the first act. I wasn't really captured as much. I think the pacing was a little weird for me, and also now, for those of you that don't know, she has memory loss in the beginning, and so because of that, a lot of what's happening is a little bit confusing, especially for someone. I on purpose didn't do a ton of research on the background of this character going into this movie because I wanted to see the movie in a raw way essentially. And yeah, so I thought the first act I was a little like I'm not sure how I feel about this movie, but once things start clicking and the story starts moving and picking up pace, and that's around I think in the midway into the second act. From that, so basically the second half of the movie is really good. I thought it was really entertaining. It was fun, and overall, I enjoyed the movie.
Personally, I mean, unlike Jalen, I actually did a little bit of research and had prior knowledge to this, so I knew a little bit of like the beginning story and her past and all that stuff. And a lot was expected that came like straight from the comics. Some of it was like dead on, which was pretty good, honestly. Which was basically the first half, and then the second half, it just kicked it up a notch straight up. It was amazing, especially like all the action, all of the fight scenes were amazing. The overall plot in the whole second half was amazing. So I thought it was a good movie overall.
Speaking of the action, the choreography was done very well, and me and Jeff were talking last night, and we were saying how the effects for the photon energy that Captain Marvel has as her powers are really interesting, and it looks really nice.
Right. And I just wanted to say this movie accomplished for me what I think all Marvel movies should do, which is get you excited about the larger universe. Because there are certain Marvel movies like Ant-Man and the Wasp that are great on their own, but what really elevates a Marvel movie is getting you hype for the rest of the universe. Being able to look at it and go, "Oh yeah, this is part of a larger piece," and being able to enjoy the larger piece more.
Yeah, when it establishes the lore of the world that it exists in. With Black Panther, we get Wakanda. With this, we get the Kree, more delving more into the Kree and the Skrulls. Doctor Strange, you get this whole other aspect of abilities and just people that exist within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it's really interesting to see things like that.
Exactly. And being a prequel, it's really cool to see the beginning of some threads that are paid off later in the universe.
I was definitely impressed by how much this movie answered. Well, it didn't even necessarily answer questions. It just elaborated further upon things that we already understood about the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
There are some things where, like Brian was saying, if you do a little bit of research, if you have prior knowledge of the comics, you won't necessarily be surprised. However, there is one major twist that just had us baffled in the theater, but we'll get into that in spoilers. But overall, I'd say I really loved it. The entire cast was great, effects were great.
Right.
Can't complain too much.
I personally would give it an 8 out of 10. Maybe I would say an 8 out of 10 because the ending. I like the ending act really brought it together. If not for that, probably a 7 out of 10. But I thought it was a really good overall movie. It's enjoyable, it's fun, good for pretty much all ages. I would say, yeah, definitely go check it out.
I'd agree, I'd give it about an 8. Maybe a 9, just because of how well the theme that it's exploring, just because of how well that is explored and just elaborate upon. This is a Marvel movie that it has a theme and it executes the theme really well.
It doesn't overdo it as well, which is really nice.
Right. So because of that reason, I give it an 8, maybe 9 out of 10.
For me, I'd give it somewhere between like a 8 and a 9, probably like an 8.5. I thought the overall story was really good, and it was just like a really well put together film altogether. So that's what Marvel really does. They put really well put together films. And I think this went like above and beyond, like compared to like Ant-Man or anything else. It's like really good to start off 2019 with this film, so I thought it was a good idea for Marvel to do that. So overall, yeah, it was really good. Probably 8.5 out of 10.
I would say in terms of Captain Marvel's character, I think that uh, I at first had mixed feelings about how I felt about her as a character because I wasn't really sure. I don't have a full grasp on who she is as a character. However, someone did point out I saw online that with the MCU, you're going to see these characters evolve over time in the way we saw Thor evolve, and Iron Man and Captain America, and so she's still in the beginning stages, and we're going to see her evolve as a character, and it's not over yet. So just because you may not have a full grasp on who she is as a person, you may start to learn more about her in future movies, as well as the fact that, actually, that's all I really have to say about that. I think we're gonna see a lot more of her, and I think she definitely did a good job.
So you guys have anything else to say, or do you want to get into spoilers?
We can go straight to spoilers, honestly.
okay.
Before we get into spoilers, shout out to our social media. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at 7studioav, as well as on Twitter. Go to our website at www.7studioav.weebly.com and subscribe to our mailing list. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So, spoilers from this point on. You have been warned. All right, so guys, what was your favorite part?
Ooh, favorite part. That's a good question.
For me, I think it was two favorite scenes. For me, the most emotional scene was when Carol she walks outside and she starts like she's not like full out crying. You know, she's got tears in her eyes because she realized that like she's being lied to, and that's when she realizes like that. I think that was probably the biggest turning point. That scene right there. I think that's when the pace started to pick up because Carol's realizing more of who she is and starting to create her own identity. I think. That's what I was going to say earlier. She doesn't know who she is in the beginning. So I think that plays a role in terms of why I felt like I couldn't get a grasp on her because she didn't have a grasp on herself. So I think now that she's kind of coming into her own person and realizing who she is, I think she's going to get a more solid character. Whereas people like Tony Stark and Captain America as well, like they automatically, you kind of got a vibe for who they were, but they're in a different situation than she was. They had time to develop their characters. So yeah, I would say that was probably my favorite scene because of how emotional it was and how much it builds her character on top of when she eventually unlocks her potential because that just looks cool.
All right, so I'd say my favorite part is it's right at the end when we see Nick Fury typing on his computer about the Protector Initiative, and then he's looking through Carol's file, and he sees a picture, and on the side of her fighter jet it says, Carol, Avenger, Danvers. And you see him thinking, you see him backspacing on his computer. We don't see what he types, but we hear the Avengers theme pick up, and it's just, again, it's moments like that that get me so hyped for the fact that this movie is able to go back and explain all these threads. That's the beauty of it being a prequel, is that it can fill in the gaps and pay off some really cool things.
Yeah, it's really cool to know that she's the one who inspired the Avengers Initiative.
Personally, my favorite one part of this film is when she finds all the scrolls that are hiding on Earth and proceeds to tell everyone, like, I'm going to get you to your home planet, or, like, she's going to travel the galaxy, and that leaves, like, a lot of space open for Marvel, because they can introduce so many other things in there. There's new worlds, there's new heroes. They can go into, the new cosmic heroes that they haven't even touched yet. And so I think that's my favorite part, only because, like, it's so unknown to Marvel, like, to people who are currently watching Marvel films and have no current background on like what Marvel does or the other heroes, that they're really going to expand and can expand on this idea. So I mean that's the only reason why it
opens the door.
Yeah, it's an opening door for all the heroes.
If the 20th Century Fox deal goes through anytime soon, I don't know exactly what's going on with that. It's definitely going to happen. I think we're pretty sure
it should be finalized within the next couple of months.
Yeah, definitely. And so we're talking, I think I could Brian, you just mentioned cosmic like heroes and entities and stuff like that. I could definitely see Silver Surfer appearing in a future Captain Marvel film. I think his kind of abilities and his domain in terms of where he revolves in the Marvel universe definitely could bring him face to face with Captain Marvel for something.
That would be honestly interesting to see, because when you look at Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, there was only like touches on like his true power, and even then you couldn't really grasp what he was trying to truly do. Also, when they introduced Galactus, it was pretty trash. No offense
Yeah.
to
I wouldn't be surprised to
that film.
see Guardians of the Galaxy run into Carol Danvers as well.
That would be pretty cool.
That would be an amazing thing.
So, Brian, since you mentioned, I want to talk about the Skrulls for a second. Because leading up to this movie, ever since they announced that the Skrulls would be in Captain Marvel back at San Diego Comic-Con of, what was that, like 2 years ago?
Yeah, I
I'm
think it
not
was
sure
around
it's
there.
the exact date.
But yeah, so ever since they announced that the Skrulls would be a part of that, people have been losing their minds and theorizing which Avenger is a Skrull. Is Captain America a Skrull? Whose is it? Because in the comics, there's the whole secret invasion. It's like a invasion of the body snatcher sort of thing. You don't know who to trust. Anyone could be a secret Skrull. And this movie does something different with that, which I can kind of see annoying a lot of people, is that they make the Skrulls... The Skrulls aren't necessarily the villains.
Right.
They're refugees. They're essentially the victims of this cosmic war.
Yeah. Did Talos say that he was staying behind in the end? I forget.
What?
Did Talos say he was staying behind in the end?
No, he went off into space with the rest of them.
Oh, I thought he said he was going to.
But I do want to talk about Talos because Ben Mendelsohn's performance as Talos was just hysterical.
Yeah, it was really good.
Especially when it's sort of the twist reveal that the Skrulls aren't that bad. He just kind of shows up in a blazer, which I guess that he took from the One Shield agent, and he's sipping on lemonade.
Are you sure that was lemonade? It looked kind of like milk. It was.
It was I don't know. It was like in a weird paper
like a-
cup.
Yeah.
I assumed it
It
was
looked like,
lemonade.
it looked like you got it from like a circus or a fair or something.
But there's
Who
just
knows?
something very amusing about that image and his whole performance and he's like, "Look, I know you don't have any reason to trust me, but just hear me out." It's just a very likable performance.
Speaking of that moment when he does that, the introduction of his science guy,
Right.
and the whole scene there, it has really good comic relief, but that's just one of the best scenes I've seen from Marvel. That's just true comedy. It like lightens the mood. It's amazing.
When I think back, I think if I watched the movie again, I think I would like it more because all the stuff in the beginning, I'll understand the motivation behind it and like why the directors chose to have certain things and in terms of how they structured the story. So I think I'm definitely going to watch it again, maybe sometime in the next few months, and just I think it's definitely one of those movies where the second time you go watch through, you're going to like it more.
And like what Brian was saying, they use that humor to sort of explore the lore of the Skrulls. Like at one point they're talking to him like, "Oh, could you turn into anything? Like, could you turn into a filing cabinet?" And he's just like, "Why would I transform into a filing cabinet?" So it's
Oh my gosh.
giving a bit of exposition, but in an entertaining way. And Kevin Feige has said that not all Skrulls are as good-natured as Talos and his crew, which makes sense considering that we hear Talos say there are thousands of Skrull factions scattered throughout the galaxy. So it's perfectly reasonable to assume that one of those factions could be seeking revenge on the Kree and have bad intentions, and that's how we get the secret invasion storyline. So I wouldn't say that this movie ruined the character of the Skrulls. I'm doing air quotations. I wouldn't say that this movie ruined anything, really.
I think it improved it because the reality is we're not talking like in the comic books you can get away with certain things like these are the bad guys, these are the good guys, and then certain comics even do incorporate what I'm about to say, but with the movies you have to be more realistic, and I like that because you're not going to have a whole race of beings that are all bad or evil. Like that doesn't make sense. They're people, they're beings. They have their emotions. It's a gray area. It's not like I'm good, you're bad. So the fact that one faction happens to be more innocent, more good, makes sense, and that some others may be more they may be more quote unquote evil. You know.
Yeah. And like I was saying earlier with how having prior knowledge might detract from the twist, the big twist is Star Force and the Kree are bad, which if you have any knowledge of the Kree at all, even if you've watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you know the Kree, they're not good blokes.
Or kind of Guardians of the Galaxy, because you see him.
You see Ronan show up
Yeah.
for like 2 minutes.
I mean, those were a good 2 minutes, though.
Yeah.
Those are pretty good.
They did a good job though of the moments when someone would turn out to be a scroll. That was pretty fun. There was one initially in the beginning where what's the guy who was you had a reaction to it, Jeff, in the theater, like when they were in the car.
Oh, so there's a bit where it's when Coulson, Nick Fury, when they first meet Captain Marvel, there's a bit of a chase. It's midway through the chase on Fury's radio. You just hear Coulson. He's like, sir, you left me in the parking lot of the Blockbusters. And Fury quickly looks over at the Coulson who he's sitting next to. They have a brief scuffle, and it turns out that Coulson was a Skrull. Mm-hmm. So this movie does a great job of not having that trope where, they don't believe that she's actually an alien. If you think about the first Terminator, no one believes that Kyle Reese is from the future. This movie does a good job of, okay, Captain Marvel's from space. She can immediately prove that because she can just fire a photon blast, and we'll have Nick Fury see a Skrull, and there, he believes it. There you go. There's no conflict of, what if he doesn't believe her? It doesn't have to prolong the story like that, which I liked.
Yeah, that was good.
Speaking of the Skrulls, and like you said earlier, the invasion and how that plays into the comics, I'm wondering how much time they will set aside if they're going to do like a film about the invasion, like how much it would have to be broken up, like it has to be with like Avengers Endgame involving into the new Avengers, which is coming out, and how it's broken up like that. I think it would have to be like at least 3 different movies if they were going to try to do that, honestly.
Do you guys want to talk about Nick Fury a little?
Yeah, sure. I think it's interesting to see his character because the Nick Fury we know is more serious. He's more, by all means, necessary kind of vibe. This Nick Fury
will shoot down a jet with a rocket launcher on his own helicarrier if he has to.
Yeah, exactly. But this Nick Fury is more happy-go-lucky. He's having fun with a cute cat, or so we thought it was a cat.
You could say he's a bit bright-eyed.
Wow.
Good one, Jeff.
Garbage.
It's interesting to see Samuel L. Jackson portray his character in a different way. I liked it.
And the CGI de-aging that they use on him is scary good.
I didn't even know there was CGI.
There wasn't a second of film where I was like, wow, that's good CGI. It was just like, it didn't even cross my mind. That's how freaky it is.
Didn't cross my mind either.
That was really good. In most Samuel L. Jackson movies, the director or whoever is involved with styling, etc., gives him really bad hair, since we all know that he's bald. But this one wasn't that bad. Like if you were to think about like other films where it was like any other film that he's in where he has to put on hair or anything fake, it looks kind of bad and it's really noticeable. But this one, it was fairly decent.
Yeah,
like you could
he didn't have his
him.
Mr. Glass hair.
Yeah. Oh, that was horrible.
Yeah. So this film, being a prequel, does raise a few questions. Mm-hmm. Like, we see him get the pager, and it never really explains why he doesn't page her sooner.
I was thinking about that today.
I'm sure it'll be explored in either, like, a prequel comic or a novel, but realistically, he should have probably paged her during the Battle of New York in First Avengers.
I can understand him not using it there. For me, it was more Avengers Age of Ultron.
Right. Well, it's funny you say that because in the first few drafts of Age of Ultron, you know how Fury has his Ex Machina moment where he shows up with the helicarrier?
Yeah.
He was originally going to show up with the helicarrier and Captain Marvel.
Interesting.
That was in the script at some point.
Because for the reason I understand he wouldn't use it for the invasion is a few reasons. One, I think if they had lost the battle in New York and it escalates to more of a global thing, I think he would have used it. However, I also think, he made the Avengers Initiative because he didn't want to rely on one person, which was Captain Marvel, to protect
Right.
Earth. So I think he almost wanted to see and prove to himself that this new team of Avengers could defend Earth. So I think that's why he didn't use it.
People
But,
are
yeah.
also pointing out an inconsistency with the first Avengers because there's that scene where they're arguing around the scepter, and Tony Stark is like, "Why is Shield building, using the Tesseract to make these weapons?" And Nick Fury points at Thor and he goes, "Because of him. Last year, Earth has a visitor from another planet." And it showed us that not only are we outnumbered, we are hopelessly, hilariously outgunned. And so some people will say that he should have referenced Captain Marvel and the Skrulls that he met in the 90s. I choose to believe that the Scepter, which we know was manipulating them to be angry at each other, made him specifically angry at Thor. And Nick Fury's whole character is that he never puts all the cards on the table.
Right.
So he's not going to reveal that this whole thing happened when it's not beneficial to the situation.
The other thing,
So I don't see that as an inconsistency.
yeah, I 100% agree with that. And on top of that, I would even argue that, so the Skrulls, like, I mean, they have, like, he was able to kill them. Like, it wasn't like he didn't feel like that incident may have not made him feel like he was outnumbered. The Skrulls didn't seem like much of a threat. The Kree, again, not a huge threat, because he probably thinks Captain Marvel is handling it. And on top of it, Captain Marvel is a human. I mean, she has Kree blood in her, but she was a human, and she was powerful because of an accident. It wasn't like she was a being like Thor from another world that was just naturally born powerful.
Right. And Thor defends himself at one point. He's like, "My people want nothing but peace with your planet." And Nick Fury goes, "But you're not the only people out there, are you?" And so now we know that he's not just taking a wild guess. He knows that there are other threats out there. So again,
Yeah.
not an inconsistency if you put a little bit of thought into it.
And I wonder how many other people are aware of this, because clearly it's a known planet that people have visited. As the one Kree, the member from the Kree, Star Force is what it's called, right?
Yeah.
She mentions that she visited planet Earth as well. So I think there may be even some people on planet Earth that know about this. It's just not public knowledge.
Right. A neat little Easter egg was we see at one point on display they call Earth C-115 or something, but underneath it says Terran Homeworld, which is a nice little consistency because in Guardians of the Galaxy it's referred to as Terra. So it's nice to see that little connective tissue.
Yeah, definitely.
While we're on the topic of Nick Fury, when the first trailer came out, there were jokes that when he picked up the cat, "Oh, wouldn't it be funny if the cat scratches his eye out?" That's what happens.
Yeah, it is what happens.
That's just...
I wonder if its claws are poisoned.
I
let's
have
hope not.
I have written down here in my notebook, Mother Flurkin, which is
the
what he
Flurkin.
says when he scratches his eye out. And can I just say, as someone who has accidentally scratched their cornea with a hanger, you don't react in that way. If your eye is scratched, you don't go, "Oh, that really hurt." No, it's painful. You see someone about that.
Yeah, I've scratched my cornea, but I had
He's Nick Fury. He doesn't feel pain.
I had wood. It was a stick, like it went straight in my eye, and I had scratched my cornea, and it left like a diamond shape. And for like weeks on end, like my eyes hurt for like the longest time, and I had to wear like an eye patch like at night to go to sleep. It was horrible, honestly.
Yes.
Somehow I can still see.
I took a little bit of umbrage with that scene where they're all sitting around the dinner table afterwards, and Talos is like, "Oh, how's your eye?" And he's like, "It's not too bad." If it were really that bad, he would see someone.
Oh, and I like the part at the end where he gets sent a bunch of like fake eyes, and we all know like, oh man, he's really done it now.
This does kind of detract from that scene in Winter Soldier where he's like, "Last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye."
That's a good point.
Although all the stuff with Goose the cat was pretty good.
Yeah.
Especially there's a running joke where Talos sees it and he's like, "Get that thing away from me." And he's like, "It's a cat." And over and over, and then it's like, "It's just a cat." I don't know why everyone's freaking out. They scan it at one point. It's like, species, Flurkin, threat level, high. And then we see why the threat level is high when the cat grows a bunch of tentacles out of its mouth and swallows the Tesseract.
Also, right after they scanned the cat, they scanned Nick Fury and say danger level low.
Low to
And
none.
he's very offended by
Yeah.
that.
I like how now in the Marvel universe we're getting a lot of movies where they, because they have been going for so long and have some really staple movies like the first Avengers and things like that, and Captain America, Winter Soldier, Captain America, Civil War. They're being able to expand upon our knowledge of the world that they're all living in, which is really interesting. Like, if you think about it, you can picture in your head as a Marvel superfan this whole revolving world that they're living in with all these complex layers of different things between like countries and outer space, and then and the cosmic entities, as well as things like in Doctor Strange universe and like magic, and like there's
And the quantum realm.
the quantum realm. And there's these different levels of this world that they're living in, and it doesn't feel so far-fetched. It feels real because the world that we're living in right now is complex like that, and it's just really interesting to see it on a movie kind of stage. It's really cool.
Speaking of the Tesseract, that was the thing that blew my mind in the theater.
That shocks
Yeah.
me too.
Because, like, we had thought we knew pretty much the whole timeline of how the Tesseract gets from point A to point B, but now it turns out there's a point A, point 5, I guess. It doesn't have much bearing on the overall story. I mean, the Tesseract still gets smashed by Thanos in Infinity War. It's just interesting to note that sometime between when Howard Stark fished it out of the ocean looking for Captain America in the 1940s, and in the first Avengers, when Nick Fury is working on it with Eric Selvig before Loki's attack, the Kree Marvel got a hold of it through S.H.I.E.L.D. or Project Pegasus and was using it to help the Skrulls. Which I want to talk about Project Pegasus because I thought that sounded familiar, and that is the same project. It's the same thing, Project Pegasus, that opens the Avengers movie. Like when Nick Fury goes to that facility, and that's the place where Loki shows up and kicks this whole thing off. So it's nice to see it all tie back into each other like a circle. Do you guys want to talk about Marvel for a sec?
Sure.
So, before this movie came out, there were a lot of different theories and speculations about whether Jude Law would be playing Marvel or Jan Rog. Turns out that Marvel they deviated from the comics by making Marvel a female,
Right.
which I'm sure will annoy a bunch of people. But they kept that core characterization of being the Kree that was benevolent, the Kree that saw the error of their ways and wanted to help. So, I know that it is different from the comics, but the core is still there. What else do you guys want to talk about in terms of Captain Marvel?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like, I feel like they did a good job with it. I think I could kind of early on tell that Jan Rog was a villain. Like, that was kind of, to me at least, it was a little obvious. But it still was a good job. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say is he's supposed to be like would you label him like the main villain in the story?
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, I think, I would say that's the one thing I would say about this movie. I don't know if there was it didn't feel like there was a concrete villain in other movies, because at first we think it's the Skrulls and then it becomes him, and he doesn't seem like much of a threat to me during the movie. I think
He really isn't.
He was a very mediocre villain. Like, it wasn't like, in terms of like some of the other Marvel villains, he wasn't amazing.
I can see that. But I do just love the climax, the finale between those two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it
good
ties into
message,
the
too.
overall it ties into the overall theme and the overall message of the film. Every time we see Jan Rog training with Captain Marvel, he's like, "Oh, you have to control your emotions. Anger is your enemy." And in the finale, after she's unlocked her true abilities and shot down 50 spaceships, he's like, "I'm so proud of you, but let's see if you can face me one-to-one. Turn off the light show and face me without your powers." And she just blasts him across the field.
That was great.
And then
That
she
was amazing.
she walks up and goes, "I have nothing to prove to you." And it's just such a great moment.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I'm sure that people will criticize this for being too political. But the idea that a female character is told over and over again that she has to control her
Or
emotions,
she's not good enough.
Right.
and then realizing that by embracing those emotions, she becomes the most powerful character in the movie.
By embracing her differences, which make her stronger, versus trying to play on the same playing field as the
Trying to
other characters.
conform.
Yeah, trying to conform. She becomes stronger than any other hero we've seen yet.
Yeah. In the real world, you see so many times people saying that, oh, women can't be in politics because they're too hysterical. They can't control their emotions. And this movie takes that idea and it throws it out a window. And it encourages people to embrace their emotions. Like Jalen was saying, embrace differences. And again, I feel that this movie has the best execution of its theme. Whether you agree with that theme or not, it doesn't matter what your political beliefs are. It executes the theme that it is trying to tell beautifully.
It does, and they didn't feel like they were forcing it very aggressively. Like they had a lot of subtle moments where you would see some misogyny and sexism within the movie towards her and other female characters. However, it doesn't feel like it's like that's the sole part of the story. And the part where I said like whereas my second tied for my favorite scene is where you see the clips of her as a girl at different stages in life standing up after she's fallen and made a mistake. And what I really liked about that is the line that she said is, "Yes, I am human." And I think that's really good because not only is it getting a empowering message across for women, it's just getting an empowering message across for people in general that like everyone, no one's perfect, and you should always stand up after a failure or a mistake and just keep going. And it was like a really good message, and it just didn't, like I said, it wasn't so focused. I didn't feel like it was over focused on politics or any like type of like bias or anything like that. It just felt like a really good theme.
And I just want to say that if you don't like this movie because you think it's a feminist movie, that really says more about you than it says about the film.
Entirely agreed.
Yeah.
7th Street, I was about to get a little political here.
Comparisons will be made to Wonder Woman because that was one of the... Aside from Catwoman, gotta acknowledge Catwoman, early 2000s Catwoman.
Oh,
but
man.
Wonder Woman is the first modern female-led superhero movie.
Right.
And where some of the differences lie, I feel, is that Wonder Woman's a fantastic film. Absolutely love it. But in that movie, it feels like Wonder Woman's going, she's powerful, and she's a woman. In this, it feels like it's more just saying Captain Marvel is a powerful person who just happens to be a woman.
Right.
I also like how you only see the misogyny when they're like with Earth-related things. Everyone else who isn't from Earth,
Yeah, there's no issues.
there's no issues. Like there's no like surprise. Like, oh, she's a woman. Why is she so powerful? Like it's not like that. Like when they're on Earth, it's like it really throws in your face. Like we live on Earth. We gotta
step up our
step
game.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, even when you see, like, you go back to, like, Thor's story, like, his sister Hela, who was far more powerful than him like, originally, and it's, like, giving women that, like, powerful stance at first, and then she just gets destroyed by Kronos, which is not cool.
And just one other difference from Wonder Woman. This has to do more with the comics that they're based on, but Captain Marvel's costume is not sexualized in any way.
Not at all.
It's just
it's phenomenal.
It's a
And it
completely
looks
practical,
awesome.
completely amazing space armor.
And also, I have to say, I find it attractive, and it's not sexualized. Like that's a good thing. Like that's a good thing. Like when it's not sexualized, but it's still attractive. Like it doesn't need to be a thing revolving around like the sexual desires of people, you know, and it can still be attractive because of the fact that it represents something like powerful and strong, you know, like and her. I mean, I just would say like whoever designed the designers for her outfit did an amazing job, did an incredible job. So kudos to them.
Right. Not to like bash Wonder Woman, but for a warrior, there is a lot of exposed skin.
Right.
And you can't help but see that it's sexualized just a bit. Like, you wouldn't put...
It's not as bad as past things. I was actually...
Right, it's definitely not as bad.
I was looking at it
In the initial... I'm
I'm
just going to say, this version of Captain Marvel is based on her uniform from more recent comics.
Yeah.
In the original, she wears like a ridiculous bikini thing with like an
Right.
open stomach. So it's more of just the writers and artists of Marvel Comics recognizing and changing with the times, whereas DC is still maintaining that core design of Wonder Woman.
Let me just say, I like her outfit or costume, whatever you want to call it, uniform, so much. I want to be Captain Marvel for Halloween. Like, honestly, I want to be Captain Marvel for Halloween.
I'm a sucker for any costume with fingerless gloves.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Captain America's more recent suits have it too,
Yeah.
and they look so cool.
The colors look cool. The textures look cool. The little detail. It just looks awesome.
And again, it's a completely practical thing that you could see Space Police wearing.
I just imagine, like, wearing that, you just probably feel like a total badass. Like, you probably feel, like, amazing when you're wearing that outfit. Like, it just looks cool.
So, one complaint that I've seen is now we encounter the Superman problem, which is where she's so powerful, sort of like Superman on the Justice League. She's so powerful, why do we need the other Avengers? And I'm just very curious to see how, like, in Avengers Endgame, if they'll like tone her powers down, or if something will happen. Because right now, I can't think of a legitimate reason where Captain Marvel couldn't beat Thanos single-handedly.
Well, you have to look at it like this. For every hero, there needs to be someone or some other entity or some other group that's either just as powerful as them or seen just as powerful as them.
I will say this. Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet is obviously stronger. I mean, Thanos by
Right.
himself is definitely not stronger. She could blow a hole through his chest in a second. But I will say that you have to remember her powers come from, like, photon energy or photons, and that involves science. So I think they can make the argument, like, if some villain were to come along and, like, strip her of her energy or, like, dampen her energy, I think that's a possibility. I mean, you saw that they did do that. Like,
Yeah,
they
they
did dampen her power. So there's
Yeah.
a way to she's not, like, immortal. She's not invincible. So there's ways to fight her. And like I said, someone like Silver Surfer, if they decide to make him a villain,
Right,
at
that's
first,
what you need, or Galactus. You need a being of greater cosmic
Adam
power.
Warlock.
Right.
Adam Warlock is definitely, like, he's
But
coming
again,
to the MCU. He's definitely
We're dealing with Thanos. Thor nearly killed Thanos.
He was so close.
You give Thor like a direct eye line with Thanos, and he's gonna kill him this time. He knows to aim for the head.
Oh man!
So there's no
Thor and Thanos in a room together after the events
there's
of
no
Infinity
good
War.
reason that Thor and Captain Marvel couldn't take on Thanos and have Avengers Endgame be like 5 minutes long.
That's true.
I just want to talk a little bit more about her and Thor, because I noticed a lot of parallels to one scene in Ragnarok. So there's the bit in Ragnarok where he's pinned down by Hela, and he has this vision where he meets Odin in the field, and Odin tells him that, like, the hammer was inside you all along, and he realized that he doesn't need it to unleash the lightning and stuff. And we see his eyes glow, and then he releases this massive burst of energy, and all the side characters are like grinning because they know what's coming, and then it's finale time. In Captain Marvel, she's communing with this Kree Supreme Intelligence, and instead of having a mentor figure coax her into that, she talks herself into finding that strength. She doesn't need someone to tell her that the strength was inside her all along. She comes to that conclusion on her own.
Yeah, that was good.
And then we see her eyes glow and the massive burst of energy, and we see the side characters grinning. And so it was really neat to see those parallels from the two strongest Avengers.
Definitely. I'm excited to see her in an Endgame because I believe after over 2 decades of time, she'll be stronger with her powers. I think she'll be more developed as a character. Yeah, it's going to be really cool to see, definitely.
Right. She does have a bit of trouble controlling her powers at the start, it's essentially like a fire hose.
Reminds me of Iron Man in the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
You just kind of turn it on and point it in the general direction of who you're trying to fight. I felt she mastered flight a little too soon, but I could
pilot,
yeah,
so she knows aerodynamics.
I could see that. I could easily justify that as just her natural pilot and instincts taking over.
As well as in space, it's a whole different ball
Right.
game when it comes to flying. So she's kind of just floating and then just pushing herself in the direction she
And
wants
I
to
have
go.
a hard time complaining when it just looks that incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it honestly looks so nice.
I was talking. Oh, sorry, Brian.
Jalen, when you said like you hope to see her powers like grow more and stronger and all that, if you're looking at her and Thor and how they are now currently and being probably the two most powerful beings that we know in Marvel Universe, where do we see them at the stopping point of their power? Because as of right now, because we just introduced Captain Marvel, and most likely she's going to get stronger.
I don't think she needs to get stronger physically. I think mentally is where you see the growth. Yeah. I think, you don't always have to see the characters necessarily get stronger. I mean, like Hulk, he's not necessarily getting stronger. He's just dealing with the mental aspect of his life. Same for Superman. Like, you see these characters that are monsters just kind of grow mentally.
And while we're on this topic of Endgame, that leads into one of the post-credit scenes where we see bearded Captain America staring at a hologram that's
Absolutely beautiful.
Numbers missing, and the number on that screen is just rising like the national debt, and there's somber music. He turns to Black Widow and he's like, "This is a nightmare." And she says this really cool thing, it's, "I've had better nightmares." And it's just a really good reminder of, oh yeah, Infinity War happened. This shit's real. We're in for bad news.
Oh, yeah.
And we see them around the pager that we saw in the end credit scene of Endgame, and they're like, it turned off. Who's on the other end? And Black Widow turns around. Captain Marvel is right there, and she's just like, "Where's Fury?" And it's only 2 words, but those 2 words sounded very defensive.
Oh, yes.
So I think it'd be very interesting if we see Captain Marvel sort of butt heads with the other Avengers in Avengers Endgame, and then we see them at the end come together as a team.
I just thought of something. She's definitely going to go try to see her friend. I wonder if her friend was destroyed in the snap.
Oh, that would be cool.
Mr. Rambeau, yeah. What's her first name?
Maria Rambeau.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
believe.
Maria Rambeau, yeah.
And her daughter.
Yeah.
That would
would make her very angry. That would make it really personal for her. That'd be interesting.
I feel like it's gonna be a scene where once she realizes that, or once she goes back, then they're going to fly off somewhere, find Thanos, and he's just gonna be dusted after that moment.
They dust him the physical hard way.
Yes.
They don't need Infinity Stones to turn Thanos to dust. But yeah, we saw this in theaters with our good friend Logan, who at the end of that post-credit scene was just like, "Man, now I just want to see Endgame."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Endgame's.
I mean, it's only a month, though. I mean, a little bit over a month away, but
So,
it's good.
One of the things that I need to see in Endgame is Captain America saying the words, "Avengers Assemble." That's the only thing I need to see in Endgame. I will be completely satisfied with any other decision they choose to make, but that's the one thing that I need to have happen.
Yeah. So, anything else on Captain Marvel you guys want to talk about?
Just the introduction of like the weapons that her crew had. I thought they were really nice. I don't know why they were just to see like alien tech like that, which is like really different from like Earth tech and like the Tesseract stuff that we had in the first Avengers. It was like really cool to see.
That was pretty cool to see, because her team is sort of like Kree SEAL Force 6.
Mm-hmm.
SEAL Team 6, yeah. And it's just funny to see the contrast between they're up in space with all these holograms and computers and stuff, and then there's a bit where they're on Earth and they have to download something, and it's like a 2-minute scene, and she's like, "What's happening?" And they're just like, "Oh, it's downloading." And then it's just like, "Oh yeah, 90s tech." Now, we are not 90s kids. We're the generation after that, so luckily, we don't really know what it's like to have very slow, crappy websites. But
Fortunately.
yeah, I'm sure someone who was alive during that time period will love the references.
Yep.
All right, is there anything else you guys want to say?
I think that wraps up what I think we want to talk about for Captain Marvel.
Completely.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you guys again very soon. We got a lot of exciting stuff coming in the next couple of months with Shazam, Game of Thrones, Avengers Endgame,
Hellboy.
and what we're all excited for, X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Oh, yeah.
No.
All right. Until next time, I'll see you in 7.
See you in 7.
See you in 7.